are. Hello, hello, everybody. Hang on. Full spectrum, how you doing? All right. Good evening and happy Thursday. Thank you for joining me once again for another awesome live chat here at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. If you are having trouble seeing me, let me know, please. Hey, Val, how's it going? So, for those of you just joining me for the first time, hey, Rosalind, thank you. Welcome. And for those of you who join me regularly, welcome back. I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. If you have any questions while I'm chatting live, please ask. If you have a question and you want to ask at a later time, maybe you're watching the replay, you can send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. That's my email, and I do try to answer as quickly as possible. Tonight is an interesting topic. Is it too early to start seeds? I am bundled up, as you can see. It is a little chilly outside. And the answer is, it's complicated. The answer is, depending on your region, no, it is definitely not too early to plant seeds. It depends on your weather, it depends on your frost dates, it depends on if you're growing indoors or if you're direct sowing, and it depends on what you are planting. So before I get started, in the description section of this video, you'll find a couple awesome links. Specifically, by the way, if you're watching me live, please hit the thumbs up. And if you have any trouble seeing me, please let me know. Sometimes the connection here is a little sketchy, so I do try to be watchful and aware of that. So when I direct sow indoors, it is usually hey Jane, hey Rosalind, it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks prior to my frost date, my last frost date here. My last frost date this year is March 17th, so I'm about a month out from direct sowing in the garden some of the items. Now, my soil is a little on the warmer side because I've got raised beds. So there's a couple things that I'm going to plant today, and I'm going to explain to you what they are and why. Now, before you sow your seeds, let's talk about soil. You don't want soggy, hey in Australia, thank you, welcome. You don't want soggy soil, because soggy soil when you're planting your seeds can cause your seeds to rot. So if you look over here, I've got raised beds. I will probably top this up just a little bit to add a little bit of fresh compost to the top of my soil. I've got garlic back there, and you may or may not be able to see it, but this bed has chicken wire attached to 2 pieces of wood, one there and one you can't really see. So I'm going to plant peas. I'm going to plant, ooh, I have them in my pocket even. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here about what I'm going to plant. But one of the things I'm excited to plant is mammoth melting peas. These are awesome. They will grow in cooler weather, so I'm going to talk about that. Now, for some of you, you might still have snow on the ground. For some of you, you might not be able to plant out until May. Hey, Krista. Yes, it's Burr in Texas. So the weather's been a little fun and interesting. It was 68 degrees yesterday, and today it's been in the 50s. But because I've got raised beds, I can plant a couple things right now. So let's talk about things that you can start when it's a little cooler outside. But if you've got raised beds like I do, sometimes they're a little warmer than in-ground soil. You see that I don't have soggy soil, but way back there, where I have my garlic planted, in between the rows, there is a little bit of soggy soil. And I created that specifically so the water would flow off. The reason we have raised beds in this area is beyond that raised bed behind me. I'm sitting on one, and then there's one behind me. Water flows from one end of the property to the other. So the first time I planted in this area, the water just whooshed right through my garden. So I learned my lesson, and I planned around nature. I tend to work around nature because there's no fighting it. Spartacus says, wish we had 50s, barely got up to 40s today. So we had ice the week before. It was in the 30s and in the 20s. So I'm definitely grateful for 50s. It was actually hot. I felt outside yesterday, so I'm learning to love and enjoy Texas weather. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's hot, and sometimes you just never know when you wake up one day to the next. All right, so let's talk about what I can plant in cooler weather. We're not talking about freezing temps, but we are talking about cool weather, not necessarily 80-degree weather. Now, optimal germination for peppers, for example. Hey, Hoglegs, thanks for joining me. Hey, Andrea, thanks for joining me. Yep, it's been a little wacky. So, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, I went live and I talked about peppers. Optimal for germination of peppers is warm temperature. They like 80, 85 degrees. So we're definitely not talking about direct sowing peppers here, but we're going to talk about some cooler stuff. So the first one is going to be, let's see, Willow Grow says, God bless, today with 65 degrees here on Cape Cod. Awesome. Peas, for example, will germinate in soil as low as 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Spartacus says, not too late, just getting started. Howdy Homestead and Crazy says, going to be 24 here tomorrow. Oh, cold. Now, they germinate best in soil that is 50 to 75 degrees. So we're not talking about outside temperature. We're talking about inside the soil temperature. There are specific soil thermometers that you can use to gauge the temperature of your actual soil instead of the outside. So I'll talk about those too in a later video. I don't have a soil thermometer here, so I didn't bring it with me, so we won't talk about that tonight. Spinach is another one that is exceptionally cool tolerant. Spinach can tolerate cool soils as low as 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Although they germinate best when it's between 45 and 65. So again, you've got some swings in temperature there that you might be able to plant a little earlier in the season and give yourself an early jump on the harvest. You notice, again, I'm bundled up because it's a little cold and super windy outside. Hopefully I don't lose my camera. We have a newer tripod finally, because my tripod flew away several times and I haven't been able to go outside recently, because another awesome thing about Texas is it gets really windy here sometimes. So another good one is arugula. Spartacus says, oh good, I'm looking forward to planting spinach. All right, so while I'm talking to you about this, I have the seeds that I'm going to plant tonight, and I'll share those with you. Krista says my spinach from this fall is still growing even through the Texas freeze. Awesome. So I've got a couple things that are still growing through the Texas freeze. I've got radish over here. I've got lettuce over there. I've got collards over there. I've got onions. I've got some lemon balm. I've got cilantro over there. And then, of course, I've got my awesome garlic growing over there. So I mentioned already the mammoth melting peas. Those are a cool tolerant sugar snap pea, I believe. Don't hold me to that. Sorry about that. I'm definitely going to plant those because I've got a trellis right here. Now, I mentioned already spinach. One of my all-time favorites is Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. That's a really good one. I'm going to kind of detour right now. This has nothing to do with planting in cool weather. I completely forgot to mention. I announced a 25% off discount code for all of our tomato seeds. Sorry about that. I should have mentioned it in the beginning. This discount code ends February 21st, 2023. The discount code is tomato25. If you use that discount code at checkout right now through February 21st, 2023, you'll save 25% on all of your tomato seeds. So awesome, super exciting. Totally forgot to mention it. Anyway, Bloomsdale Longstanding. I like Bloomsdale Longstanding because it bolts slower than other spinach. That means I'm going to plant it early and it's going to be cool tolerant, but I'll have a little longer to grow because it doesn't bolt. And Rosalind, you're getting the jump on me here because I'm going to talk about that too. He says, got my taters in. Awesome. So arugula is another one. You've got arugula slow bolt, which again, you can plant earlier in the season and then it will hopefully last a little longer because it bolts a little slower than some of the other varieties do. So that's another one. Ready for my next one? Rosalind already got the jump on me, and that is Russian red kale. Like other brassicas, kale is an excellent cool hardy crop. but specifically the red Russian kale and the dwarf Siberian kale tend to be even more cool tolerance than some of the other ones. For example, lacinato kale is a little more warm tolerant than some of the other kales. So that gives you an idea. There are different variants in the kale family that you can actually plant, some for cooler weather and some for warmer weather. So kale is a good one. Like I mentioned, it can germinate as low as 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Crazy Goat Lady says, I'm also wondering if it's too late for onion slips and garlic. Maybe, maybe not. We plant garlic in October or November, so it may be too late for that. I don't have any more garlic left. And these onions I planted in fall, and they've thrived throughout the late fall and the winter time. So again, it really depends on your area. As I mentioned in the very beginning of the video, I get these questions, what can I plant now? Or is it too early to plant? And that is absolutely going to depend on your growing region and how you're growing. So I mentioned already, I'm growing tomatoes and peppers indoors under lights. I'm going to plant these that I'm mentioning tonight outside in ground. So it really varies on what type. What type of onions did you plant? A couple different varieties. All of them are short day onions. Had to think about that for a second. So I have Texas Early Grano, and I have red burgundy over there, and then I have a multiplier onion that I'm going to be doing that I found a local farm had slips. Well, had starts, so I added those. See, I've seen people in East Texas say plant garlic around Valentine's Day. That's a possibility. I've personally never done it, so go for it. If you can find garlic at this time of year, definitely try it. I never say not to do it. I hope you saw my email. If you sent me an email, please check your spam folder. Oftentimes I respond to emails and they go in your spam folder. If you asked me about garlic, I did respond, but I'll go check and make sure that that I have the right email for you and that we made sure we got connected. If you don't see it in your spam folder, reach out to me again just in case. Sometimes the wacky world of emails, they miss out. So if you were the one that asked me about garlic, definitely check your email. Radishes are another one that are exceptionally cool tolerant. So like I mentioned, I've got radish. I can see my little seedlings popping up over there. So that is another excellent one to plant if you've got cool weather, but slightly warmer temps in your soil, specifically not with snow on the ground. We're talking about warm-ish temperatures. Oh, hey Denise, hello from San Diego. Hello from East Texas. So radishes, again, can germinate as low as 40 degrees Fahrenheit, even though they prefer temperatures from 55 to 85. Again, you can kind of push the envelope and try and plant them early. So I do have some radish in here, and this one is Cherry Belle. I have French breakfast over there already. I have watermelon radish over there already. So I'm going to do Cherry Belle this time. So I kind of have a little bit of differences. I'm going to plant wasabi radish again this year, and I'm going to plant white icicle radish. I really like the white icicle radish. Hey, in Northwest Alabama. Again, if you send me an email and you don't see a response from me, oh good, I remember the mustard seed. Yes, I did respond to your email. If you send me an email, please check your spam folder or your other folder or the promotions folder, whatever it is, depending on what email provider. I do try to respond to all emails within 48 hours. All right, cilantro. So when you think about cilantro, you're like, oh, summer salsa, making some yummy summer salsa. But the frustrating part sometimes about cilantro is it isn't as heat tolerant as, say, your tomatoes and your peppers. So cilantro is amazingly cool tolerant. I've got cilantro growing on one part of the garden that has reseeded itself twice, and now I'm getting a third batch of free cilantro from seeds that dropped on the ground and just started growing as well. So Homestead Crazy says, Mary, what zone are you in? We are in zone 8. We are in East Texas. Specifically, we are in Ben Wheeler, Texas. I have to do this. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm about 75 miles from Dallas. I'm on the east side, or I'm about 100 miles west of Shreveport, Louisiana. So I'm learning my way around Texas here, everybody. Let's see. So I mentioned red Russian kale. I am definitely going to plant red Russian kale. So at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, sorry, I'm looking down here. You've got a pack of 100 seeds. It says 100 seeds, but there's definitely more than that in a pack. And you can plant these right now if your soil is starting to warm up. Homestead and Crazy says you would start things about 2 weeks earlier or so before me. Perfect. So now you have an idea of where we're planting. And I break the rules when it goes to planting. I plant earlier, I plant later. I just like to determine what works best in my area and then go from there. And that way, since I'm experimenting, I can help other customers figure out what to grow in their area. So tonight we're talking about, is it too early to plant seeds? For me, it is not. It's going to depend on where you are. So I'm specifically talking about varieties that can, not absolutely will, but can germinate in cooler weather. And I should probably add a disclaimer to this. Sometimes, if your soil isn't optimal temperature is between 68 degrees and 85 degrees. If your temperature is too cold, it might take a little longer for seeds to germinate. But we're gardeners. A garden is not a microwave. We know that we have to have patience in the garden. And yes, if you're just joining me, please hit that like button on our video and subscribe if you haven't already. Felita says, with as crazy as our weather has been here in East Texas, it feels like every year is a new year. Absolutely. I learn something new every year in the garden, and no 2 years of gardening are ever the same. In as many years as I've been growing, it's always an adventure. I'm always learning something new. So thank you for joining me on my adventure here at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. So last but certainly not least is going to be cold hardy lettuce. So cold hardy lettuce, not every variety is cold hardy. Some of them are more cold hardy than others. Say, for example, the Four Seasons lettuce, or Henderson's black seeded lettuce is a good one. Not all, like I mentioned, will thrive in cold. Collards will definitely handle cold. And the one thing I love about collards is they are heat tolerant and they are cool tolerant. So I've got some collards that lasted in full sun in the Texas heat, and they survived. And then when it cooled down, they started thriving. So again, testing my boundaries here in the garden to see what works. And so what lettuce did I bring out here that I'm going to plant? I forget what lettuce I brought. Oh, I'm going to plant Jericho lettuce, even though it's not as cool tolerant. And I'm also going to plant Henderson black seeded Simpson lettuce. So those are the two varieties that I'm going to plant today. This isn't my only planting I'll be doing, but this is just my cold hardy planting for tonight. So I'm super excited about that. Now, if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. I generally like to keep my videos short and sweet. I don't generally ramble on about random happenings on our homestead, just because I do like to keep my live chats kind of on topic. As I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, you can send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. Check out my website, which is marysheirloomseeds.com. You can use the search option if you're looking for something in particular. In the description section of this video, you'll find my comprehensive planting guide. It is packed full of helpful information. So definitely check that out if you have any questions. Homestead and Crazy says, I'm way behind because we have been, oops, sorry, I missed that. Because you've been staying way too wet to work the ground. Yeah, we had a lot of rain here. Thanksgiving, we had about 4 inches in 3 days. We had another 5 inches and a freeze at the same time, so I completely understand. I'm looking at this beautiful walkway we had put in. I was sloshing through the mud going back and forth at the shop. So we had a nice walkway put in, and I almost slipped and almost threw my coffee, threw my phone, but I didn't fall, fortunately. So we have had a little bit of erratic weather here to where, like I mentioned, we had freezing ice and then we had 68 degrees. So while I have a teeny bit of warm weather, I'm gonna get out there and plant. Getting my hands in the soil feels really good, and it really kind of gives me a boost sometimes when you're having some winter blues. So I hope you enjoyed my video. Please hit the thumbs up on the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And like I mentioned earlier, there's tons of great information on my website, and the discount code right now to save 25% off heirloom tomato seed packs at Mary's Heirloom Seeds is tomato25. You can use that right now through February 21st and save 25%. Awesome, right? It's winter for some of you, and you can go shopping and save a little bit and maybe get a few extra tomato varieties that you wouldn't necessarily have had before. Alrighty, everybody. I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds signing off. I'm gonna go head in and get myself some warm tea and warm up after this chilly evening out here. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and happy planting.